Hi, I'm Trisha at Club Scrap and welcome to the Heartfelt Page Kit Workshop. Today we're going to sort the papers, then trim all of them, trim our Cutaparts, and then distribute everything to our 8 12x12 scrapbook pages. When we're done with this workshop, you'll have basically no scraps, nothing left unused, nothing left to store and organize in your crafting space. Let's go ahead and get started. Here I have the Heartfelt kit and the Heartfelt instructions. Make sure that's what you're looking at here. This kit with these instructions. We did have a previous release of something similar. We called it Heartstrings. So just want to make sure that we're all literally on the same page. I'm going to set all the embellishments aside that came in your kit. Set the ribbon aside or leave it in the bag it came in. And I'm also going to take my Accordion Pocket File. I will leave a link in the description to a kit that helps you make one of these so that you can stay organized more easily, because again, we trim everything needed for 8 pages all at once. So this has 4 pockets and it allows us to keep our stuff in a very, very small area, taking advantage of our vertical space. If you don't have this, don't stop the workshop now, continue on, but simply maintain 4 separate piles. Okay, now I'm going to take the entire stack of these papers and I like to hold them upright so that I can see them from the edge rather than trying to find them on the tabletop. Just like you're shopping at the vinyl record store, which is now trendy once again. And let's put the paper into the order that we'll be using it. We're going to start out with what we're calling the music print. It's quite obvious why this is the music print. Take one of them and just put it face down on your trimmer base. Then reach a little bit further into the pile for the other print. This is the blue print. Put that face down on your trimmer. Next, we're moving on to aqua. Now be mindful that there are 2 shades of blue in your kit. The aqua is going to be the darker one. This is going to be called light blue. So the aqua is darker. We're actually going to grab 2 sheets of that. Then take one light pink. So there is a dark pink in there. Make sure you have the lighter pink. I'll show you the difference. Here's the light pink. This is the dark pink. So one light pink and then one dark pink. It'll be pretty easy to identify the dark gray. That'll be next. Followed by one sheet of the light gray. Now this light gray has a linen texture on one side, more defined than the other. I'll put it texture side down. Reaching to the back of your stack, and these prints may be facing away from you, so be mindful of that. Grab the one that has the blue strips on it. It's all strips actually. Put that face down, and then finally this one with the dark pink corner here. Put that face down. Next up, we need 2 light blue, 2 light blue, and then 1 light gray, again, linen side down, followed by the remaining music print. So put that face down. Next up, 1 dark pink, 1 blue print face down, and 2 dark gray. So if you need to see all that again, just rewind. In fact, if I'm going too fast at any point, you can also adjust the playback speed on your YouTube channel settings to 0.75 to just slow me down. Once you become confident and a little bit more experienced in this process, it'll be so much easier for you. It's like anything in life. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. I'm going to take this music print now and place it in my guillotine style trimmer. By the way, if you need this trimmer, and I highly recommend it, there's a link in the description below for this unit here. And you can just see right away like how much I've used my trimmer through the years of like daily heavy use, but I've never once had to sharpen this blade. It's pretty cool. Okay, anyway, back to the print here. Let's place it in the trimmer at 5.5 inches, making sure your hearts are on the left here. So to find 5.5, I just find that whole number. And then I go to the left 2 of the columns that are printed there to 5.5. So I'm halfway between 5 and 6. I'll push down on this clear bar to hold the paper in place, making sure it's level at the top. And that's all there is to it. Both of these pieces are used in layouts 1 and 2, and they're kind of big. So instead of trying to file them and have them be in the way for the rest of our time together, I'm just going to put these on the bottom of my stack. That whole stack of paper that we sorted, put it right underneath it all. Then take the blue print. This time we will trim it with it right side up in the trimmer. First cut is at 8.5, so that's 8 plus 2 columns to the left. and then 4.5. We're getting practice with our halves. So 4 plus 2 columns left. And the first two pieces that we have here, the one in your trimmer base and the one that just fell with lots of text on it, those two go in pockets 7 and 8. Being mindful that the pocket is only 12 inches wide, the same width as the paper. So I like to put it in like so it's hanging off the edge over here on the right, and I can still see the numbers on the left side of that pocket. So never try to jam it down into the folder, okay? And then this last strip here, pocket 3 and 4. Next, we're going to take one sheet of the aqua. Make sure you're seeing one on your trimmer and there's one to your left. Let's make some tiny pieces here by trimming at big numbers. So we'll start out at 11 3/4. So just a quick review, that's 11 plus 1, 2, 3 columns to the left. Make sure it's flush, stable, and slice. Then 11.5, so I'm just moving one column. And then 10.5. 6 1/4. Now notice that I never moved any of the papers that landed over here. So as a practice, just make sure you always leave those papers stack up, and then I'll help you deal with them one piece at a time. Now the piece still in your trimmer, rotate it so it's horizontal, and let's cut at 8.5 and 4 1/4. Gather the two pieces that you made that are the same and place them in pocket 5 and 6. Now grab the little rectangle that fell from the end, and we'll trim this one at 6 and 3. Take those two smaller rectangles that we just made. They're the same, or they should be. Place them in pocket 1 and 2. And this little guy is a scrap. My apologies. Set that aside. And then grab the larger piece that was to the right of your trimmer. We'll cut at 11.5 and 6 1/4. This piece that you just made that's in your trimmer base, pocket 5 and 6. And then the other larger mat, pocket 1 and 2. There's a little scrap. Then you have one wide strip that remains, pocket 1 and 2. And the two skinny guys, those are going to go in pocket 5 and 6. Now take this next sheet of aqua, and this time we're going to trim it at 10 1/4, 6 1/4, and then rotate this, and we're going to cut at 11 3/4. That's really close to the 12 over there. 8.5 and 4 1/4. So you just made two pieces, the one in your trimmer and the one that just fell. They're the same size, and they're going to be placed in pockets 7 and 8. And then you have this narrow piece here, so just go with me here. It's going to be kind of fun. We'll cut at 4.5 and 2 1/4. Now the piece in your trimmer and the piece that just fell, they should be the same size. Put one of them in pocket 1 and 2. And the other in 3 and 4. And then you have this little rectangle. I'm going to have you trim it horizontally at 2 3/4. And this little guy goes in 5 and 6. Then we have this tiny piece and a narrow strip. These are scraps. I'm going to set those aside and pick up the piece that's to the right of my trimmer. Let's cut it horizontally at 6, so right in half. And that gives us two 4x6s. They're both used in pockets 7 and 8. And then you have this other wide strip here that goes in pocket 5 and 6. I am turning in my instructions to page 2, just in case you're following along. But the whole idea is that you don't have to, because I'm taking you right through it. Let's trim at 11 3/4 on the light pink. And then 10.5. And 6 1/4. Rotate and trim at 8.5 and 4 1/4. Once again, that's going to give us those two photo mats that we're looking for. Those go in pockets 7 and 8. And then I'm going to take this little rectangle. We'll trim it at 6 and 3. Now, just a side note, the reason I don't have you trim this piece in half is because then we would have to trim at 3 1/8. People don't love trimming at eighths, otherwise we could probably avoid the little scrap. And we'll place these two pieces in pockets 7 and 8 and then get rid of our scrap. This piece up from the top of the pile, that's 4 1/4 by 12, we'll trim it at 6 1/4. That gives us another photo mat for pocket 3 and 4, and a shorter mat for pockets 7 and 8. Then we have these 2 narrow strips left over. Both of them go in 7 and 8. Moving along to the dark pink, we'll trim at 6. Rotate and trim at 8 and 4. Now rotate this piece and trim at 4. Place this in pocket 1 and 2, and then you have this little rectangle. We're going to cut it in half at 2 and place that in pocket 5 and 6. You have 1, 2 more photo mats. Those go in 5 and 6. And then I'm going to pick up this other 6 by 12. We'll cut at 8 and 4. All 3 of these pieces go in pocket 1 and 2. Dark gray, we're almost there. Hang in there with me. We'll cut this one at 6 1/4. Rotate and cut at 8 1/2 and 4 1/4. Stack these two together, pocket 3 and 4. Once again, we're going to take that little rectangle and cut it at 6 and 3. Gather these 2 rectangles up and place them in pocket 5 and 6 with the little scrap left over. Then this 5 3/4 by 12 piece, we're going to cut at 11 1/4, 7 1/2, 3 3/4. Gather these 3 rectangles that are the same for pocket 3 and 4. And I regret to inform you that we have another little scrap here. Light gray. Let's trim this one. Be careful here, it's different. At 6 1/2. Rotate and cut at 9 1/4 and 9. This large piece, pocket 3 and 4. And then we have this smaller rectangle. There was also a little scrap. It kind of snuck under my trimmer. That's a scrap. But this wider piece, we're going to cut it in half at 3 1/4. You've made 2 pieces the same size for pocket 5 and 6. Then we have this larger piece. We'll cut it horizontally at 10 1/2, 7, and 3 1/2. Gather again the 3 pieces that are the same, pocket 3 and 4. And you have this narrow strip. We're going to find a home for it. Let's start at 4 1/2 and then 2 1/4. And what I like about this trimmer is even for these small pieces, I can just take a finger and stabilize it. One of these goes in pocket 1 and 2, and the other in 5 and 6. You did create a small scrap. So I just want you to know that at this point, to make a total of 8 pages, this is all that you will have left over. These are the scraps, just this little pile. Not bad, right? We use literally everything else that came in the box, maybe with the exception of just some edges, which we're now going to remove from our Cutaparts. So let's just take this Cutapart and note, if you will, that there's some writing on each outside corner, the edge, and there's a little hash mark in each corner. So the goal is to remove anything beyond that hash mark, and maybe even the hash mark itself. The first time I try to cut that, I'm unable to see the outside edge of my blade down here at the bottom because the paper is just too large. So when I make this first cut, I cut a little shy of the hash mark, and I'm going to go back and clean that up later. Then rotate 1 turn, and now I should be able to see that hash mark up here and down here, how it lines up with the blade, and it does. I'm going to rotate again. This is the 3rd side. I'll trim that. And then now I can look at my 12 over here on the left and confirm that it lines up on the right, and it does. And now I've got to clean up. This is the fourth edge. It's where we started, or it's where we started, the first edge really. And I'm going to take off that last little hair. Now this trimmer has been used probably hundreds of thousands of times, and it's still capable of creating that little hair, which is really impressive. Now I'm going to rotate this one more time so that my edges, or my strips, are running vertically, and the blue is on the right edge. And let's cut at 11, 10, 9 1/4, 8 1/2, 6 1/4, and 4. Let's get these pieces filed. This large strip, pocket 5 and 6, and then you have this medium one, the two of them. They're kind of a pair, like always follow your heart, it knows the way. Both of these in 3 and 4. Then you have 2 strips with those sweet little hearts. Those go in 1 and 2. And then the 2 blue strips, 7 and 8. Let's do the edge removal on this second sheet of Cutaparts. Again, I'm just cutting a little shy on that first rotation, and then being really accurate on the remaining rotations, making sure that the hash marks are virtually gone. Okay, once again, I'll get rid of my little scrappies, and if you need to pause the videos to catch up, you know, with your edge removal, go for it. All right, with this strip on the right here, I'll cut at 10 1/2, 9, 7, and 4. Rotate, and we're gonna trim from the end here at 11 1/2 to take off the loves, and then 10 1/2, and 7. Now this guy, he's gonna go in pocket 1 and 2. Then we have this text area, 3 and 4. And then we've got to do a little bit more trimming. And again, it's possible to do it on this large trimmer. It's totally okay. But if you want, you can move these pieces down so that the top edge of the strip lines up with the bottom line under the inch markings on your trimmer. And we're going to cut this at 3, 2, and just use your finger to stabilize the paper, and 1. It's possible, my friends. Okay, so if you file in the order it landed, you've got the pink love, 7 and 8. You've got a pinkish heart, 3 and 4. Be Mine, 5 and 6. And the soft pink heart, 1 and 2. Incredibly, we have this other strip here. We'll trim again at 3, 2, and 1. If you don't have time for this minutia, please don't worry about it, okay? So this first blue love, I use it on 5 and 6. The cursive love, I didn't use that little blue love that's in cursive. And then one of them, let's see, the uppercase one, I think goes on 1 and 2. And the other one that's in like the gray blue color, not sure, 3 and 4. There's so little, it doesn't really matter. Okay, then take the next strip. We got some journaling prompts here on the right. We'll cut at 10, 8, and 6. Now, you have these other little pieces. I'm just gonna do a rough separation on these hearts, and we'll fussy cut them a little later on our own time. Okay, so the large pink heart, pocket 3 and 4. Then we have a smaller, like more solid pink heart, that's 5 and 6. Then we have one that leans a little bit darker in tone. It's got that deeper blue and like a fuchsia. That's 1 and 2. And this other one that's a little bit more blue and softer pink, that's 5 and 6. The journaling prompts here, I just want to point out that they do kind of become tags. I usually use a craft knife and cutting mat to clip off the corners and a ruler so that it's real accurate. But another great way to do it is just right on your trimmer if you're, you know, up for doing that. So this one, it has vertical, it's a vertical tag. That's going to be in 7 and 8. Then we have a horizontal one that's for pocket 3 and 4, and the other horizontal pocket 1 and 2. This larger strip here, the best thing to hold on to is each other. That's by Audrey Hepburn, pocket 7 and 8. And we have some last cuts to make. So with the word love on your right, let's start at 9.5, 7, and 3.5. You will forever be my always, 7 and 8. With all my heart, 5 and 6. This little blue background, 5 and 6. And the love, 1 and 2. And then you have this long strip for pocket 5 and 6. And congratulations. That was your last cut. Now you still have some papers you haven't trimmed yet. Those are going to become the base of all of your future pages. So lock the blade of your trimmer, grab your accordion pocket file if you're using it, and then from now on this needs to lay on its back since the trimmer is no longer supporting it. Set this aside and we'll get started by putting everything onto the base pages of layout 7 and 8. We're going to work backwards and it's going to make sense in just a minute if you're new to this process. I promise. If you could turn with me to the bottom of page 4 in your instructions, if you're using them, or maybe scroll to it if you're using your laptop or something. Layouts 7 and 8 is where we're going to begin, as I mentioned. And this is all queued up to help us achieve that. So you got this whole stack of papers. Remember, these little guys are on the bottom. And I'm going to just take the top sheet, which is light blue, and slide it over to the right. And now I have the base for layouts 7 and 8. So we're going to keep placing things onto these base pages. We're not going to adhere them right away. And we're going to go all the way through. When we're done, on the top of your pile, you'll have layout 1. And that way you can work your way back to adhere everything. And then, of course, add your photos and your journaling. So there we go. Be mindful that we need to empty the back pocket or pick up the fourth pile on your organizer here. So get everything out of that pocket, all the little pieces, and let's sort of just lay this out so that you have an idea of how everything's going to come together when you return with your adhesive. So I like to get those bigger pieces down first. Let's take this blue part of the print and place it right against the edge here. And then there should be a really skinny piece of light pink. That's going to butt right up against that. And then we're going to get the one of the blue strips. There's another large piece of that print that's going to be up here. And then you're going to have a wide light pink. And then that should nest with the other piece of blue. And we have a vertical border strip here with the title. Now remember, you have this trim in your kit. This is one of the goodies. And I'm just going to cut a length just a little longer than this. That's what's going to go right up against this. And of note, I used bookbinding glue. Just after this was attached, I ran bookbinding glue along here, and then I stuck this down onto the glue, kept it nice and straight, and then just secure the ends around to the back. I did a lot of embellishing on this, so of course you get to decide how much or how little of that you do. It's your own page. Notice how these two aqua mats fit in there so perfectly, nice and vertical there. And then there are going to be two larger pink mats that will actually nest with the aqua. I have them overlapped and tilted. And then this fits right in there perfectly. Here we have our journaling prompt and two supporting pieces right here. And then this guy here. Now we have our love. One thing that I have in my stash, probably from 1995, is one of these decal edge scissors. This is by Fiskars. It's called Paper Edgers, and it's the stamp edge. I just happen to have that. So I took scissors and I turned it into a stamp. Maybe you have a cutting blade or a punch or something, or not at all. I mean, you know, I don't even know if they make this anymore. I'm just saying that I have it in my stash, so I used it. Yay for using something in my stash. I tucked that right over here. It's very sweet. Another thing that I do tend to use is my, this is a slot punch. So I take that, I pop it into the tag, and now I can thread some ribbon onto the tag. And the same is true over here. I just used my slot punch to add a little slot, and I can wrap ribbon through there because we do include the ribbon in the kit. So finishing touches here for you to enjoy. We have our ribbon added here again with the bookbinding glue. I'll show you what that looks like. This is the nozzle applicator that I use, and I just dispense our glue into this little bottle. And then I taped the ends on the back of the page here. Oh, I guess in this case I did a hole punch rather than the slot punch. Also easy to find a little 1/4-inch hole punch or a crocodile, which is what I used. And then I used some of the pink and white twine, and then I attached the knot with adhesive so it wouldn't wing out all over the place. Here on this page, oh, I had so much fun. This I did slot punch, and then I added the ribbon. This is the wide taffeta edged satin. And then here I took some of that twine, and I tied a knot in the end of it, and then there's a little piece behind it that sits behind the heart. Maybe I'll just quickly show you how I did that. I don't want to leave you too much in the dark on this stuff. So yes, here I have the twine, and I just tied a knot into it at the end, leaving a short tail. And then you can cut some off. And take the heart, and this is the back of the heart, and I just took a tiny little piece of tape. You can use your favorite adhesive there. And now I have my heart attached to a string, and then I did that twice, and then I tied the strings together. Adorable, right? Also, this, I attached both of these with foam adhesive circles. Those are my tips for those 2 pages. Adorable, if you ask me. I'm a big fan of these pages for sure. Let's move on now to the next page by picking up the blue and sliding it over. Then you have light gray visible, slide that over. That gives us the base for layouts 5 and 6. So we're going in reverse in our instructions for a little answer key. I always liken it to a jigsaw puzzle at this point where I always use the lid of the box, right, to navigate my way through the pieces. And then this is like the equivalent of the lid to my box. This is my jigsaw puzzle. But the best part is when you're done, you don't have to destroy it. You can turn it into scrapbook pages. Okay. Or you don't have to like glue it together and find a place to hang it. I've got these aqua photo mats here. One will be horizontal and then 2 vertical. We'll get that going right away. Then over here, this wide strip is going to get some little paper ribbons, I call them, above and below. We're going to put some dark pink on top of the mats on this side. And what else? We've got 2 dark gray rectangles that will have some friends that nest together with them. Kind of softens it up a little bit. And then this piece I added vertically here, and then I put another length of that ribbon, the heart ribbon. Let's grab that. Just stretch it across. Trimming a little bit more than the 12 inches so that I can wrap it around to the back. Oh, I see now this piece was nested with the aqua. That's nice. And then 2 pink on this edge. I did round the left corners of it so that it would kind of tie in with the little miniature tag. So you have this piece of gray, and then you can nest it with the tag. Now when you pop out the heart, if you want, you can save that, okay? And I rounded the corners of this too with my 3-in-1 corner punch, and placed that kind of right above here. So all these corners ended up being rounded. And then this guy, oh, and I put some of that twine on the tag. Then this guy kind of here, and then the punch from the tag, I just put it right there. Adorable. I fussy cut this little guy, and he fits in there along with an addition of one of those hearts. Now back to the right side of the page, I added this guy as an anchor for the woodcut word love. Sweet. And then after fussy cutting this heart, I added it right there. Let's take a look at this side for some details. We've got our love glued on with bookbinding glue, and then I took the taffeta edge silver ribbon and tied a nice bow with it. It's so pretty and simple. And then this I attached with foam adhesive, just kind of tilted and peeking into that strip over across the top. Then on the facing page, I didn't glue this down evidently. Oh yes, there must be a little tiny love. Yes, let's take a close look at this. Oh, I just love it. Here's my little heart there, my fussy cut heart. There's a shadow on that Cutapart, so you know exactly where to cut. Then added this on top. Here I used the glue method again and the wrapping around the back. I added the Be Mine to the tag and then the little love sticking out, and I just cut around it real tight. In fact, those items are probably stuck in the pocket. Let's see. Oh, indeed they are. Okay. So my Be Mine is here, and then I took scissors and just made this little cut right along the edge, just freestyle, okay? And then that's kind of went on top of that right there. Whoop. Careful, there's a lot of little parts and pieces here. Okay, now we know how this comes together, I hope. Pretty straightforward, even though it's a little bit labor intensive. I think the effort is worth it. But again, if you're not up for doing all this, just do the basics. I'll take the base of the music print here and slide it over on top of the light gray. Here I see the dark pink. I'll slide that over. And I'm also going to reverse in my instructions now to the bottom of page 3. And what I see is what I have as the base. Empty pockets 3 and 4, pocket 3 and 4, and this time I'm going to make sure I get the little tiny pieces. I'm starting out right away by adding this gray right here on top of the pink, and then there's a dark gray matte that fits right onto it. Here we have our blue print and a pink across the bottom. It's going to say, it knows the way. And then over here, it's going to say, always follow your heart. Didn't have the heart to cover up much of this print, but I did run 3 dark gray mats across the bottom, followed by 3 nesting light gray mats. I tore this out. Then I added my fussy cut heart and then another heart on top of that, and I wrapped the whole thing up with ribbon, and I'll show you more details on that in a sec. Added the word love right here. You've got a mat for your journaling prompt, and you can clip each corner individually and then slot it or punch it or whatever you want to do here. The little white tag, top it with some of that twine, and add this. I did add also, after cutting right around the word, I added love to this spot here. And now I'm going to show you everything close up with those finished pages. Okay, let's talk details, my friends. So here we have the slot punch, the nested journaling prompt. The ribbon is just threaded through and wrapped around to the back. Everything else very straightforward on this layout. And then on the facing page, I'm just going to talk a little bit about this upper left corner. Here you can see the heart. Here's the puffy heart, torn edges here, the bigger heart that's been fussy cut. Then I wrapped it with the taffeta edge satin, and then I added this little twine to the center to kind of, tie it up. It's so pretty. Then here, do you see that the heart is blue? Well, I did end up using my scrap. Remember I showed you those scraps? I used it to create some contrast behind the heart, and then added my little heart with the little love. I mean, it's just so sweet. Again, this was glued on, and then look, right to the right of here, that's the little heart that came out of the tag. So Again, tons of little details. I had so much fun with this, but you don't have to get that much into the minutia. Returning back now to our page process, I'm going to slide and slide. Now underneath that gray, one of the bottom gray, you should have the print. So this one's going to go this way, and this one is going to be turned this way. From pocket 1 and 2, take everything out. I got some littles in there. And this one's pretty easy, I think. We're going to take, this guy is up here, and we have a aqua strip that gets nested with some heart borders. It's going to be a pink square for here at the bottom. And then we also have this right there. And then 2 horizontal dark pink, a short aqua, 1 horizontal pink here with 2 aqua. This is going to nest onto your tag. This light gray will nest with your final tag, where we can add this and maybe some of that blue scrap. I'm just going to put a little scrap of the blue to fit behind the heart there. We have the word love and our little applique, some ribbon. And then this heart gets fussy cut and placed over here with the word love. That's it. Well, I got all my pieces out there. The finished pages on the right. I punched 2 holes here and just did my candy wrapper ribbon attachment. So just kind of thread it through and bring it back out so you can see the ends of the ribbon through the 2 holes. And then here I have this attached with foam adhesive with the love sticking out. Here I threaded the ribbon and then added a second bow. On the facing page, we have our final little collage over here. We have the sweet ribbon, just a loop of it taped to the back of the love. Here we have the scrap, turning it blue in the punch out, and this is attached with foam adhesive and then strung with the twine. Such a sweet little finishing touch. Now that you have all the pieces in place, you can either load all of this back into the bag that your kit came in, make sure you include all the ribbon, and if you printed the instructions, include the copy of the instructions. Then when you're ready to finish up these pages, maybe it'll be at a crop or when you're with friends or at your kitchen table so you can be near your family, whatever works for you. Or you can just do that now. Just glue everything down now and then bring your pictures to these finished pages. If you haven't tried this peculiar method yet, I promise you it will save you so much time in the long run, and your memories will be captured and preserved in this beautiful hobby that we have of scrapbooking. The other thing that I want you to keep in mind is that we have a ton of different projects that you can make with any Club Scrap Page Kit. So you can take the Heartfelt kit, trim the papers differently, maybe add some folding board or other supplies. You can make handmade books, all kinds of fun things as alternatives to just 12 by 12 pages. So thank you so much for joining me for this workshop. If you could just take a second and hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to our channel. Maybe leave me a comment if you learned something new or enjoyed the workshop, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.